So guys, nice to see you. I know this topic is a little bit different than normally, because normally we talk about automation, we talk about Swift left, we talk about agile and so on and so on. But today I decided to speak a little bit about Chinese culture, because I've been working with China for 5 years, and I've discovered that many people, especially testers in Poland, have a problem with working with Chinese people. They don't understand them, they don't know their history, what exactly is China, what is their ethics, they don't know what is the whole point of domination of Chinese people in Europe and United States and so on and so on. So I decided to study Chinese culture a little bit, at least. So working with Chinese people, testers especially, is easier, and hopefully it will be easier also for you. And by the way, I know I talk a little bit fast, like I'm on methamphetamine, or at least I'm a hidden brother of Eminem, so sorry with that. I just talk fast, so hopefully the person translating, sorry for that, will catch with me. Anyway, when I began studying Chinese, I didn't know anything about China. If you ask me, what do you know about Chinese people, I would say, well, Chinese people, everything made in China is poor quality. You shouldn't buy it because it's weak, it's poor, it's cheap. Of course, I knew there was Mao Zedong, so people, human rights, there's non-existing. People are unhappy. And of course, I knew there is a lot of everything in China. A lot in a sense, a lot of a noise, a lot of a people, a lot of a crowd, everything a lot in a bad possible way. And I know I finished college, but this was my whole picture in the 21st century of China. What I didn't know about China, and what I want to show to you, is the fact that China, for example, is one of the leaders when it comes to robotics, automatization, and so on and so on. I know it's very difficult to see here, but it's a company called Xiansun. Currently, France, Germany, and United States are still the leaders, but this company has so many people, so many know-how, and so many money. They are getting higher and higher in the range when it comes how good the robotics in China will be and is. Of course, I didn't know there is a culture with the QR codes. There is no normal currency, normal money. Everybody, even the beggars and poor people, use mobile phones. You can come to them with the magic of NFC. You can pay them whatever you want. And I understand, it's cheap, it's easy to understand, and everywhere you can use it, especially that it is integrated with the applications. And speaking of which, if you think about applications, every single popular applications, you know, Facebook, Google, WhatsApp, Amazon, and so on and so on, every popular website and applications was translated and rebuilt in China by Chinese testers, by Chinese developers, with the Chinese government, and so on and so on. And it's good for them because they understand it, you know, because it was made by Chinese people and in Chinese, and they don't matter if it's using European servers and so on and so on. Everything is translated and copied in China in this sense. Of course, there was another thing. I will be a weatherman today. This is Silk Road 2.0. If you look at this, you have two paths, one coming on the land and one coming on the sea. Technically speaking, China has the plan for 2030 and 2050 to build a Silk Road 2.0 that will connect 75 countries around the world. And you might think, okay, this is crazy. This might require a lot of people, a lot of money, and so on and so on. And yes, indeed it requires that a lot of money, a lot of people, and so on and so on. But the fact is, people in China want to dominate around the world and the whole world with this simple plan, because they will connect Istanbul, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan. There we have Djibouti, Egypt, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, and so on and so on. Everybody, in some sense, will be connected with these Chinese people. So they want to dominate the whole world. Now, what is China? What is China, and how to explain this is 30 minutes. You have a long and boring quote from Thomas Friedman, an author who tries to understand China and culture and so on and so on. And he said, when I was growing up, my parents told me to always finish my dinner because children in China and India are hungry for my meal. When I'm a parent myself, I tell my daughters to finish their homework. Children in China and India are hungry for their work. And this shows something. This shows that people in China want to dominate, want to be number one. They are hungry for being the best. And I will show you why it's good to understand those people, because sooner or later, you will all be working with Chinese people. Now, we have only 30 minutes, and Chinese culture is very long, so how to put it in 30 minutes? Quite simple. You use examples of Confucianism, Mianxi, and Guanxi, the cult of the face and cult of relation. So let's go each of those elements one by one. First one, Confucianism. Confucius was a guy who wrote a lot of books, especially including laws about government, sociology, about healthcare, about religion, and so on and so on. If you read his books, you always can find something whatever you need, especially if you are a Chinese person. This is opus magnum for every single Chinese person. And he wrote many things about how you should behave as a Chinese person. And it's quite simple to talk dozens upon dozens hours about each and every paragraph. But the most important, especially for you as a testers, are some of the elements. First element, hierarchy. If you ask Chinese people, they don't understand the flat hierarchy, that you can come to your boss and say, hey boss, by his name, I think about this and that, such and such. No. In China, there's a very strict culture and very strict hierarchy. This is your boss, this is the boss of the boss, you are here, you cannot go wherever you want and talk with whoever you want. Now, how it translates to us as a testers? Quite simple. If you have a Chinese person and he is, let's say, senior test engineer, and you have a junior test engineer in Russia, and you think, okay, your knowledge and his knowledge are quite the same, from the starting point, you are in the bad position because you are junior and he is senior. And I know this is only a title, but they take this very seriously, that you didn't match the titles with, let's say, the range by itself. The same goes for CEO. If your CEO has 5,000 employees and his CEO has 50,000 employees, even if you didn't begin discussion with Chinese person, you are in the weak position. Second of all, if you ever wondered why Chinese people take so much time with answering to your emails or Jira tickets and so on, reasons are two. First of all, there is nothing like individualism in China. You cannot do it by yourself. You cannot go and say, you know, in my decision, I think we should do this and this. No, everything is done in group, every single time. They have meetings, they discuss and discuss and discuss. This always takes time, but they discuss the best possible way for them to have the best possible outcome. And of course, there's a small, very small hint with that, time. You might think, okay, time, everybody understands time in the same way, right? We have a limited amount of time. We have, let's say, 60, 70 years of our life. Every single day, we have 24 hours. So we have to have strict calendar with the meetings that take an hour or 2 hours, delivery on, let's say, next 2 months, and so on and so on. In China, the time is limitless. It is endless. It is in the circle. So they don't understand why we are very peculiar. Hey, we need this on the 2nd of November, and so on and so on. Hey, dude, we have limited time. We can update it or make a tweet about or feature and so on and so on. So you don't need to be worried. And this is the reason why European guys cannot communicate directly and understand in the same way with the Chinese people. Please keep this in mind. Always, if you have a meeting with Chinese person, have this small amount of extra time just in case if the meetings go well or no, or if the delivery goes well or no. Now, 2 extra things from Confucianism. Knowledge. For every single Chinese person, the knowledge is the most important stuff. Please, by all means, never tell Chinese person, you know what, you made a mistake, this is your mistake, this is your error. No, no, no. He will take it very, very personally. Try to be very generic, like, I think we should reconsider, we might do this way, and so on and so on. Because he will not show it to you that he feels disrespectful and so on, but he will definitely try to do stuff in a way that it will be hard to you to follow or to understand. He will make your life very difficult. Believe me, we had this type of problem. And one last thing about Confucianism is something called chabuduo. Now, it's very difficult to explain chabuduo because you might say chabuduo is like, it's done, it's done. It doesn't matter how you deliver stuff as long as you deliver. Let's say you need a product in 3 months. You deliver this product, the Chinese person delivers this product in 3 months, but it has a lot of blockers and criticals and majors and so on and so on. And you tell to him, hey dude, this has a problems. And Chinese person doesn't understand this because he has this chabuduo mindset that, okay, I delivered to you, I've shipped it to you, and we have endless amount of time, so what's the problem? Well, there is a problem, especially if you are working with Germans or, let's say, Norwegian people, because they are very, very, very strict when it comes to what we want for what amount of money. What Chabo do is like, screw it, we delivered, so everything is awesome. Now, this is the first thing that you need to know about Chinese person. Second thing is Mianxi. Mianxi is the cult of the face. Now, these propaganda posters show perfectly that everybody in China are happy, of course, and if you want to know what Mianxi is, Lin Yutang, a very famous writer, said something like that. You can define Mianxi. It is an intangible, abstract, and unwritten norm that regulates Chinese relations. Basically, it boils down to one simple thing. If you're a Chinese person, your face is your brand. You can be like, think about this like Adidas, Nike, me, because everybody in China tries to be, you know, amazing in some way. Knowledge is one thing, but branding is second thing. You need to know, for example, if I was Chinese person, imagine for a minute, that Marcin is the best in the automation, or Marcin is the best in this, this, and this. So, because of that reason, Chinese people behave in a very peculiar way. For example, for them, truth hurts. Not quite literally, but the truth hurts. They will try to do every single thing not to tell the truth. They will try to cover their face. They will try to say, oh, maybe there is no problem. Maybe we should reconsider. Maybe we should do this and this and that. It's very hard because if you want a very strict and very simple question and answer, and they are acting like, I don't know, I think like a small kid. Did you do it? I don't know, I think, maybe, maybe not, and so on and so on. So it's very hard to speak with the Chinese people. Then, it's very hard because, as I said, knowledge and competence is very, very important for each and every one of the Chinese person. But once again, there is a twist in that. Face of a nation. If you think about Chinese person, you need to think about Chinese people as a face of their nation. They are very serious about, I'm a Chinese person, I love my country, Chinese is the best, China is the best, and so on and so on. And I know it might sound crazy, but almost 95% of Chinese people really believe in that, and they will do every single thing to prove it to you. Now, imagine that. You are working as a test engineer, you tell the Chinese person, hey, you know what, you made a mistake. All of a sudden, you are saying that China sucks, because they take it very, very personally. And I know this is abstract, but stick with me. The abstract will go higher and higher. There is two extra things about the branding and the face, shame to say and losing face. Let's start with the shame to say. As I said, everything is vague, everything is always in the gray area. If you ask Chinese person, he will never say yes or no. He will say, actually, maybe we should this and that. If you hear any time in your life, actually, know that Chinese person is saying no to you, but he can't tell it to you directly. Once, because he would lose his face, and two, because you would also lose, in a sense, face. What does it mean to lose a face? As I said, Chinese person takes everything personally. Chinese person thinks about himself like a very amazing person. So his brand is very important for him. Now, losing face, you can lose face in two ways. One, direct, if at the meeting, every Chinese person have a poker face and you are screaming, or all of a sudden you are saying, but you didn't deliver, there are a lot of bugs, and so on and so on. Boom, you lost your face. But if you have this, let's say, poker face and you are playing this game with the Chinese person, and let's imagine you know he made a mistake, you have a proof he made a mistake, you're saying, Mr. Steven, because they like English names, it's easier for them and us to communicate with them. I don't know why any Chinese person would love to call them children Steven or Bob or something like that. But if you have a Chinese person, Steven, and you say, Steven, you made a mistake, you not only said this person made mistakes, but you also said his boss made mistake. Why? Because this boss hired this person, right? So maybe the boss sucks because he has such employee. So if the boss sucks, maybe the CEO sucks, so he has these PMs that are weak and line managers that are weak, and so on and so on. If the CEO sucks, maybe this company sucks, and so on, and so on, and so on. And you are back to this, all of a sudden you are saying China sucks, and just because you rejected one Jira ticket. I know this is crazy, it doesn't happen very often, but believe me, sometimes it happens. We can discuss this later on, and oh my God, the escalation is so high, and you're like, I just rejected one simple Jira ticket, sorry for that. And all of a sudden there is a war between your company and the Chinese company. Boom, this is the reason. And this is Mianxi. And finally, there's something called Guanxi. I I don't know if you know, but there's quite a lot of Chinese people around the world, and each of those Chinese person loves to be a professional, but they love to be together in a sense. We are Chinese people. We try to do the stuff together. So they try to have this guanxi, which means, let's say, respect. And the higher you have respect, the more people you know. I know this person, and this person knows this person, so I might be very high in the ladder, corporation ladder. You might do very easily some sort of contracts. Is it very easy to you to all of a sudden have a friend in China? If you don't have a guanxi on a very high level, if you don't act like I care about you, you are just not a random person in China, but I ask you questions, I try to get to know to each other, and so on and so on. This Chinese person needs to know that you care about him. I know it's crazy, but everything about China is a little bit crazy. But if he knows you care about him, if you ask questions, if he sees that you treat him as a tester, all of a sudden stuff is easier. All of a sudden you see, hey, we don't need to wait 2 weeks. We can wait 2 days for the reply. We know that stuff goes well, and so on and so on. This is the reason. This is why it happened. If you have good relation called the guanxi, the stuff is way easier for you. How abstract it is? Believe me, if you have guanxi and you come back to China, let's say in 20 years, because you have a different contract or a different project, we can start just like that, because the guanxi is one for the lifetime. Chinese people know that American people love to come to China for the cheap cost, and they know, okay, 1 year from now, the United States won't be here, so the contract, the written contract, doesn't mean nothing to Chinese people. If you have guanxi, oh, everything all of a sudden is on a different page. Everything, the writing is just, you know, a tip of an iceberg. Of course, there's a second part of that. Always a second phase of the same coin. If you have a high guanxi, you can try to do stuff that is gray area when it comes to law, or you have a backdoor when it comes to should we do it, is it ethical, and so on and so on. But Chinese people will say, nah, it's not a problem. Example, I'm doing with my company smart speakers, and we need Google to certify our products. So we send it to China because they are doing stuff, and they send it to the Google, and Google rejected this. And we have a very strict harmonogram. So we ask, what now? And Chinese people were like, oh, you know, we can take it to our factory, and we can manually stick the Google sticker, and nobody will know. Okay, but should we do it? It's not ethical. Yeah, but everybody in China does it, so no problem with that. And Norwegian guy said, do you think we are stupid? We are the clients. You think we are so stupid that we will do it? And the Chinese person, because he didn't know what to reply, he said, yeah, because he was trying to protect his face, and he was thinking to protect his face in a way, hey, it's better to deliver this wishy-washy way than rather don't deliver at all. So that's the reason, guanxi, mianxi, and Confucianism. 3 elements. Of course, there are still some stuff that we need to talk about. For example, the Chinese ethics. Chinese ethics have 3 pillars. Knowledge, passion for the work, and passion to be number one, to be the best. Always and always and always. China right now will try to do everything for you to forget the Chinese-Japanese war. There didn't happen at all, the First and Second War. For those of you that don't know China's history, they were beaten by Japan in very, very bad way. They lost a lot of money, a lot of people, a lot of land, and so on and so on. China, forget about it. It never happened. We are still number one. We'll protect our history, and we'll try to prove it to you. How they try to prove it? With the strong pillars. For example, if you ask how a government is looking at the Chinese people, they are trying to support them with money. They are trying to have a business angels. They are trying to have no tax development zones. Imagine that. You are a young person, all of a sudden you want to do stuff from the Proptech environment, or maybe the IoT, Internet of Things. You go to the government says, hey, okay, we have no tax development zones. Just go there, you don't pay taxes, everything is awesome. They have, of course, incubators. Then they have creativity areas. Imagine that. You have a college, and near the college they are building buildings in which there are people that have a lot of know-how, a lot of expertise, and so on and so on. And they are teaching those people how to be creative and how to do stuff in the best way. Of course, there are digital communities for young people, because everybody right now are on their smartphone, and they are mentoring them in the best way. Example, by of course. If you look in InnoSpace, XNode, TechTemple, 2 years ago, Startups, very small startups, nobody knew about them. But thanks to the Alibaba, Tencent, and Baidu, all of a sudden everybody knows about them. They have a lot of money, they have a lot of know-how, they have the best possible people in the world when it comes to these sectors. How it happened with this? Of course, the government, as I said, has a vision. It's no longer just a Mao Zedong that is looking in the future and thinking, maybe we should do this and that. No, the government has a plan for 5 to 10 to 50 years. They have a lot of money, they have a lot of plan to optimize every single aspect of Chinese life. They want to do it the best possible way. And of course, this is something also for you. They have a strong legislation and a very good lawyers when it comes to protect Chinese people and the Chinese patents. And of course, if you want to go to China and you think, oh, they are cheap, we can do whatever we want, thanks to the fact that they have the great Chinese lawyers, and the Chinese law is very miscellaneous with the understanding. You cannot read it and think, oh, okay, I understand it. No, you can read it in many, many ways. And if you are not Chinese person, you will never understand how to read it. Sorry, it sucks, but China is China. But yeah, they have a vision with that. And I was wondering, why is then this very famous, let's say, vision that is always we versus them? We versus the China, that the China is, going up front and they will do stuff against us. Maybe, just maybe, some of the reasons. We don't understand Chinese roots. We don't understand what does it mean to be proud to be a Chinese person. We don't understand the Chinese language, which, by the way, in a sense, it's way easier than English or way easier than any other language in the world. It's very logical in this sense. It's hard from the phonetical point of view, but from the logical, it's very easy to read the Chinese language, believe me, and understand what is happening there. We don't understand the construction of the ecosystems, as I said, how those people gather together and what they want to achieve. And of course, we don't understand the support of the community and understanding of the needs, because they don't need just the money, they don't need this contract and so on and so on. They need to show the respect, they need to show to you we are number one, they need to show we are the best, the Chinese person is the best person. And look, after this presentation, half of this, all of a sudden you understand, so it's way easier for you to work with Chinese people. You know what does it mean to be proud as a Chinese person, or how the Chinese person mindset, at least in some sense, works. But let's talk about last element, the Chinese domination. China, as I said, want to be number one, especially in the new industries, the IoT topics, the Proptech, the property technology. They want to be the best of the best. And they are trying to do it in many, many ways. For example, there is no longer policy of one kid, one children. No longer. You can have how many kids you want, and the Chinese government knows they need to catch India, because India and Africa are currently number one when it comes to the number of births in the world. So they are trying to do whatever is possible for them. And it is logical, because if you have kids, you can have the best Proptech when it comes to kindergartens and schools and medical and stuff like that. If you have old people that do not understand the IoT technology, they were born in the old ages, it's very hard to maintain such community. It's very hard to maintain such nationality. They're not a Korean person, it's not a Japanese person. They are not like work, 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 work. No, they love work, but they also love to have fun, love to have a family. They want to have their own houses and so on and so on. Keep that in mind, that Chinese person is not like, okay, I will work from the morning till the end of the day. No, they want to have free time. So the balance in their life is quite important, and please keep this in mind. Two extra things. One, how many people is connected when it comes to internet via mobile phone or via laptops and so on and so on? Boom, China is number one. They have the highest range, and they are number one when it comes to how many people in your country are using the internet. And second of all, they have, once again, number one, how big the middle class in your country is. This is the best balance in any country in the world currently. They have the biggest middle class in the world. Middle class that wants to travel, they want to be, they want to discover, they want to meet other people, they want to understand technology, they want to invest in that, they have a lot of money, so they are trying to do their best. And government is also trying to do best, because they have and are building stuff called mega or giga cities. 6 out of 30 giga cities in Asia are currently located in China. Giga cities are cities in which there are 20, 30, 40, or even 50 million of people living in one city. Imagine 50 million people in one city. That's quite a lot, right? You might say, this is Czech Republic, and there is like 4 million people. Oh, this is one, I don't know, building in which lives 3 million people. It's nothing amazing in our city. But yeah, if you connect every single stuff of that, the amount of kids, the yin and yang, internet connection, how many of the middle class is in China, and the gigacities, all of a sudden you might say, damn, they want to really invest in this Proptech technology. They really want to be the #1. Maybe, just maybe, is good. It's very good to understand them. And how to understand them? There's plenty of times where people around the world are trying to understand Chinese people, and they ask them, hey, how it happens that you do it so fast, so quickly? What's the magic in that? And CEO of one of the technology and R&D companies said, there's a story, a very popular story for kids in China, that there was 2 villages. One village had zebras and one village had white horses. And the village with the horses was very poor. The village with the zebras was very popular and had a lot of money. So the person, the mayor of the poor village said, maybe, just maybe, we should have zebras. But people were, nah, we shouldn't. We know how horses work. Horses are better. We shouldn't do it. So one night he took a paint. He went and painted one of the horses. And all of a sudden, at the morning, he said, look, this is still our horse because he reacts to the name. He eats what horses eat, but he behaves like zebra. And people got used to this and said, oh, OK, maybe this is how it goes, and so on and so on. So each night, he painted more and more of the zebras. And people got used to it. And one night, he switched the horses with the zebras. And all of a sudden, the village was very happy. And they live long, happy ever after. And you might say, OK, but what's the meaning of that? Look, Chinese people know they shouldn't spend time on democratic questions. Should we? Shouldn't we? Is it OK? Isn't it OK? What do you think? And so on and so on. No, Chinese government does stuff fast. They try to act and react. They know that, let's say, the Proptech is hot. The IoT topic will take like 5, 10, 20 years to adapt. So they are trying to do it very, very fast. And that's the magic behind how Chinese people do it. They try to sell to the people, the Chinese people, hey, look, it's quite the same, almost the same, but all of a sudden technology switch. And this is how they are getting better and better and better. Because another Chinese sentence or proverb says, it doesn't matter if the cat is green or black, it matters if he catches the mouses. So believe me, they want to dominate, be the #1, be the best of the best. OK. We have still 5 minutes, but you might say, damn, there was a lot of the information here, especially for us if we don't if we never understood Chinese culture or we never worked so much with the Chinese people. Now, hopefully, you will work and understand them. What's next? What are the next steps after this presentation? Well, once again, let's ask Chinese people. And Chinese people used this poster in the 1970s and 80s when they wanted to catch up with the, let's say, Asia and other part of the world. And there are 3 sentences, I Keshue, Shue Keshue, and Yong Keshue. And it means love knowledge, study the knowledge, and practice the knowledge. Basically, I hope that you might take at least some part of this presentation and you will, hopefully, you will be interested in that. Maybe you will study that. Maybe you will say, maybe those Chinese people are not so crazy at all. Maybe there's a logic behind that. Maybe I can adapt some of those solutions in my life, and maybe my life will be easier. And hopefully, you might practice that. Because as Sun Tzu said, always study past to predict the future, and there is something in that. And with that being said, if you are introvert, there is option for you. You might, because I love books, and I hope you also love books. If you're an introvert, I highly recommend reading those 4 books. Why? CEO of China, The Rise of Xi Jinping. This is the current president of China. This is the person that is, in some sense, responsible for this Silk Road 2.0. He's a very smart guy, and he knows, he loves technology. Read this book, try to understand this person. Quite interesting lecture. Second, Make Real Estate Great Again. This is not a book written by Trump. That's just the title is similar, like Make America Great Again. But it is quite a good book if you love Proptech, if you are interested in property, especially real estate technology. They will try to deliver answers to your questions. 2 extra books. One, Days Like Floating Water. This book was written in the 80s and 90s. I highly recommend reading this book so to see how fast China is changing and developing and what is the impact of the whole switching to the IoT mindset. And with that being said, what does China think the Mark Leonard is trying to answer and explain the current state of China, the current state of their future, and why they are so amazing in what they do. This is for introvert. If you are extrovert, I highly recommend contacting me via any social media, or once we are done, you can always ask me questions here or outside. And with that being said, thank you for your time. What we're looking for?
I'm looking for headphone for translating questions.
You can translate, you know Polish, so. Come on.
So thanks for interesting presentation, but I have now feeling that you really admire China and so on. But don't you have a ethical and moral dilemma with them, because that's the most undemocratic country, and if they don't like you, just disappear?
As I said, it's better to at least know your enemy, in quote, enemy, because look, sooner or later we all will be talking and working with Chinese people, and I've been having a project upon project with Chinese testers, developers, and so on and so on. So I think it's better to at least understand them. So you might be, in case of war, you might be on both sides, you know, your country and...
So you like that idea that you will work? Because if I can decide, I will never work with them to support this idea.
Yes, ethical aspect is always difficult, but I think there's always some magic in that. You might hate me after this sentence, but I don't know. In some sense, I admire how fast they were able to be the #1 in so many areas. So I try to at least study and learn as much as possible, and maybe adapt it in our area. Or in another way, if you want to look at this, I want to be a mediator between the client that is from, let's say, Europe or United States, and the people who are working in China, so we can all agree and understand each other.
Под них подстроиться. Делают ли какие-либо шаги в этом направлении, или единственный вариант с ними работать, это нужно их познать и только так с ними работать, даже если вы являетесь руководителем их, как они в аутсорсинг у вас занимаются?
Okay, he asking about you go to step for understanding Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
Did Chinese step to understanding you?
Well, I speak fast, so I don't know if they are willing to spend time, but honestly, I know it might sound weird, but Chinese people for most of the time think, okay, most white people just want money, 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 and that's pretty much it. So they don't spend so much time, and to be honest, they don't care so much about you. The project has the highest priority, and yeah, to answer your question, I spend a lot of time, they don't spend a lot of time. They are like, all white people are the same, so yes. So, sorry to disappoint you, but no, they don't spend time and effort to understand you or any other different nation or culture and so on, or at least those people with whom I was working with, not to generalize. But.
My friend, question for me here. Vipul Kochar from India. This whole thing about security of your intellectual property. I don't know if it was covered. I went out for 5 minutes, so maybe it was covered then. But what do you say about it? And one example I have is Adobe. I used to work for them, and they had an office in China. They made sure that all the critical pieces of the algorithms, private keys, and so on, they're not accessible from China. And finally, they had to wind up their office because of the pressure put in.
Security is a high problem. First, because IoT, when it comes to security, it just sucks. IoT is not prepared for security in this day and age. But second of all, Chinese people gather as much know-how as is possible, and they know that sooner or later everybody will send devices and products and software to Chinese people, so they have know-how. Example, my client is working with them for 3 years with the smart projects, and one time he didn't deliver the money on time, and Chinese people were like, we are not working, but you know us, we were working for 3 years, we will pay you. No, we have know-how. If you don't like, go whatever you want, but no, the security is on their side. It's a very hard question not to be on bad side with the Chinese people, but yeah, they try to do as much as possible with the resources.
So what I meant was the Chinese government stealing your IP.
Yeah, I don't want to use this word, but yeah, they are in some sense doing this non-ethical way of getting to know you, even if you don't want it. And once you know that they are listening, they are like, oh. So yeah, and because this is China, they have Chinese laws and so on and so on. They're like, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Come on, what you gonna do? So you're on a bad side because always they can forget English and so on and so on. But the understanding Chinese, is a very difficult stuff.
Thank you for such a nice speech. And I'd like to ask if there is a way to make things faster. So you're not a boss, you're just a regular or a junior. You have no 1G, you have nothing, but you have a very angry Dutch people from other side and some Chinese guys who have to deliver something. Is politeness make a way to you, or some hints to make things faster? Because you need time and they have all the time in the world.
To answer with the quote of my boss, if you know to some degree the Chinese culture, you sometimes need to take the shit on your hands. So you go to the client and say, look, I know you're angry and so on and so on, chill, what's the problem? Cool. You go to the Chinese, hey, what's the problem? Oh, we don't see the problem. Okay. And you try to match them in some sense, but yeah, if you show, I know it sounds crazy that being respectful and humble to the Chinese person makes the life easier, but believe me, it makes easier if you don't trim, screw it, just this 50 Jira tickets, put them on Steve because he's in China, so screw them, what they will do. No, ask them, try to behave and so on and so on. And yeah, it's very difficult. It's hard because it's not like, let's say, 20 times I will make you a favor, and once I do it 20 times, you're like, oh, you're my friend, right? No, sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it takes less time, but still, if you do the first step and show them, hey, I at least try to understand you and do stuff your way, they are like, maybe this Polish person doesn't suck so much. Yeah, so because of that, I have a very safe and secure position in my company, because everybody else is like, I don't know, but I like to work with them, and in this way, it's way easier to not escalate all of the problems. But yeah, understanding culture is better. First step makes it quicker, but it's not like, boom, if I do it in it's not like a written law. Let's do it step by step by step, and all of a sudden, boom, 2 months from now, everybody loves everybody, right? It doesn't work this way. But at least you need to try.
Thank you for the speech. You have been working with Chinese people for ages, and you have some difficulties. Why don't you look for stuff, for example, in other countries, Russia, Ukraine?
Like, the question is why I work in Poland still?
Yeah.
Look, I love two things. I'm, let's say, expert in two things: China and Internet of Things. If you have a position, I'm free. Hello, I'm free. But it's hard to match because if you know very good Chinese and you want to work in China, there's a higher chance they will take a person directly from China who knows a little bit of English, because it's easier for the government to show, hey, we give job to the Chinese people, right? We are not giving work to the white people and so on and so on. But when it comes to this, Jesus Christ, I ask people around the world, but they are like, oh, we don't have a problem with Chinese people, really. So yeah, from time to time I look, but sadly, nobody wants me.
Еще будут вопросы какие-нибудь? Давайте скажем тогда спасибо докладчику.